All right, welcome back. So if you're building with AI, you've probably gotten pretty good at giving it tools to, take action. But here's the thought. What if you could give your AI a library card? Today, we're going to dig into how you let your AI read and really understand your specific data, which is how you transform it from just a simple tool into a genuinely knowledgeable assistant.
And just so you know, the concepts we're diving into today, they're pulled straight from some excellent course materials over at Dev Credence. They really focus on the practical, real-world side of AI development protocols.
We are jumping headfirst into their Model Context Protocol Foundation course. Why? Because we're going to unpack two really foundational concepts that will absolutely change how you think about interacting with AI. And those are resources and prompts. And that brings us to the big question for today. Really, the whole point of this explainer. Look, we're all getting pretty good at giving AI tools to perform actions, right? But what about the data? I mean, how do you make your AI actually aware of the files, the logs, the database entries it needs to be truly useful?
Okay, let's get right into it. To answer that question, we first need to get super clear on a really fundamental distinction in AI development. It's all about separating what an AI does from what it reads. This right here is the fundamental idea you've got to grasp. It really all boils down to this. Tools are for actions. Think calling an API, running some calculation. But resources, they're for data. They're for letting the AI read and understand information. Just lock that in your mind. Tools do, resources read.
So with that core idea clear in our heads, let's zoom in on the data side of this equation. If an AI can read, well, what's it reading? In this framework, that's what we call a resource.
So here's the crucial part. A resource is basically any piece of data that you want to expose to your AI. You're essentially curating a little library of information and telling the AI, hey, you're allowed to look at this stuff.
And a resource can be almost anything you can think of. We're talking a simple config file, a single row from your database, the very latest system logs, or even a live screenshot of an application. It is an incredibly flexible concept.
Now, this is the big mental shift. Instead of hoping the AI just magically guesses the name of a file it needs to read, you proactively give it a catalog, a menu of available resources. And this changes everything. It turns the AI from a passive tool into an active agent that can literally browse its environment to find what it needs.
And here's what that looks like in practice, in the code. You can see we're just defining a resource, giving it a friendly name like config file, and then we're pointing to where it lives with a URI. It's just like a web address, but for your own local data. It's a super direct way to tell the AI, hey, this thing exists, and here's exactly where you can find it. Okay, that's huge. Our AI can now see the data. But how do we make it easy for a person, for a user, to tell the AI what to do with that data? Well, that is where prompts come into the picture.
A prompt is basically just a pre-packaged instruction. The best way to think of it is like creating a button for a common task, so the user doesn't have to type out some long, complicated command every single time they want to do something.
You know, the documentation puts it perfectly. A prompt is simply a shortcut. It guides both the user and the AI toward a really specific, useful outcome without any of the guesswork. And the shortcuts you can build with this are just incredibly powerful. I mean, imagine having a simple Analyze Logs button that automatically points the AI to the latest log file and just tells it, go find the errors. Or maybe an Explain Code prompt that takes whatever file you have open and asks the AI to break it down for you. And defining this in the code is really straightforward. You give the prompt a name like Analyze Error, and you can even specify that it needs certain parameters, like an error ID, to create these dynamic, reusable shortcuts.
So what's the end result of all this work? Well, it's a much better experience for your end user. You're taking what could be really complex operations and turning them into simple, one-click actions.
All right, let's put it all together. Because while resources and prompts are definitely powerful on their own, believe me, they become an absolute game changer when you combine them.
So here's that magic workflow we were just talking about. Step 1. You expose the log file as a resource. Boom, the AI now knows it exists. Step 2, you create an Analyze Logs prompt, which shows up as a simple button for the user. And step 3, the user clicks that button, and the prompt tells the AI to go read that specific log resource and get to work finding errors. See? Data and action, working in perfect harmony. So why did we just spend all this time walking through this? What's the big takeaway here? What makes this whole approach so important for building modern AI apps? Let's circle all the way back to the beginning with a quick pop quiz from the course itself. What is the main difference between a tool and a resource? Think about that first comparison we saw.
And there it is. Tools are for doing things, resources are for reading things. By separating these two concepts, you end up creating a system that's just clearer, way more powerful, and infinitely more flexible than if you tried to cram everything into a single tool function.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. Now that you understand how to give your AI data to read and shortcuts to act on it, what would you build? What kind of powerful, user-friendly prompts can you imagine creating to make your own applications way smarter and a whole lot easier to use? Honestly, the possibilities are pretty much endless.